G'day, I'm Craig, and thank you very much for buying one of our solar controllers. Whether you've got the 40 amp or the 20 amp, it's exactly the same, and I'm just going to go through with you the unboxing, what's in, and a few hints and tips for you. Alrighty. Alright, let's see what we've got in the box. We have the instructions, which we know no one reads. We have the temperature probe, and just plugs in and tells the ambient temperature, but we'll talk about that a bit later. We have the very important template, so don't throw that away. There's your hole sizes to drill it out, very important. Last but not least, we have the controller itself. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is the location. So these guys aren't waterproof. So there's a couple of things we need to consider. First one is you really want this located as close to the battery as possible. So you're using the less amount of cable length to do its job. So as close to the battery. Now, we also want to avoid direct sunlight. We've got an LCD display screen here, and we don't want direct heat onto the front screen here. So that's another consideration to make. Now, also, there's a bit of a heat sink on the back of this. So for a start, we want to avoid excessive heat. So, you know, obviously an engine bay or something like that would want to avoid, but, you know, in a caravan or something that would be okay. Now, remember, we also want to have enough gap that the cold air can rise up under the heat sink and then up over the top. So remember, we learned in school that heat rises if anyone paid attention in science. We've got to do that. No moisture, no condensation, so keep it free of any harmful moisture whatsoever. Now, a little tip, before we actually connect it up and hook it up into the van, what I suggest to make, I just find it easier, if you make yourself a couple of small Anderson tails. So I just label it, one for the load, one for solar, and one for battery. And that way we can connect those straight away, put all the terminals in underneath. The beauty of this, you can use some bloody big cabling, unlike some of the competitors on the market, which is small cabling. So nice chunky cabling like this, hook it all up, and that way you don't need to bend down when you install it to find out where you're putting your terminals. All right, let's get some connections happening. And here's a brief description of where everything goes. Now, the temperature probe is probably the best to hook up first. It does have a little 3M sticky backing on it, so you can actually stick it somewhere. So basically plug him in. Okay, and the next one you want to plug in is, if you're going to buy, you can get this separate, which is a remote meter, which this is really good if you've got a caravan or somewhere where you're putting this you can't really see. And you can mount this, and there's a couple meters of cable, so this is a really good idea. Or you can get a simple little BT one. This is a little Bluetooth device that you can plug in and control everything by Bluetooth as well. So that's the next signal source in the chain we're going to run up first, so we'll plug that in. Okay, so next we want to connect is the battery. So as if this was hooking up live, we'd want to hook the battery in first. And as you can see here, you do have the positive and the negatives of the power of the solar panel, obviously the battery and your load. So it's quite easy to follow, you can't get that wrong. So first we want to connect up the battery. Second in line that we'd want to hook up if we're actually connecting it would be the solar panel. And finally, we're going to hook up the load. Okay, we're finally ready to plug it all in and get it all operating. Okay, so now it's time to power it up. First, like I said before, is the battery. So that's the first connection we want to actually make. So battery on. Okay, second connection is going to be your solar panel. Last but not least, we're going to chuck in the load. All right, next we'll go over the display and all the icons so you know what you're looking at the main screen. It's the most important out of the lot. So we'll quickly go through. Up the very top here, you've got the picture of the solar panel. So that should be flashing on and off. That's normal. The next will be the battery icon. So with the battery icon, we want that on nice and solid. Next one down, the picture of the light bulb is for the load. And depending if that's on and off, If I turn the load off here, you'll see it turn off. And finally, the error code. So if that's blinking, we've got a fault code, and I'll show you the screen for that a little bit later on down the track. Okay, the main screen layout here is you can see pretty much everything you need to. Up in the top corner here, we've got a picture of the sun. So that means that the panel has detecting light. If there's a moon on that, it means you've got a problem with your solar panel, not with the controller. So that means there is no input from the solar panel. So a sun is good. Then we have the solar panel with arrows pointing into the battery. We then have arrows pointing into the light source or the load. We have the main voltage display. We have the mode that the charge is in. At the moment it's in boost. We have it set on 12 volt. We have it set on solid battery, and we're up and running. Okay, so now I'm going to go through each screen so you get to look at all the different benefits and what this controller actually does. So the up and down arrows, that's the scrolling up and down through the menus. This is to exit the menu, and this is to press enter to the particular thing you're going to change. But what I'll do is I'll go through the screen here, and okay, so this is solar panel voltage. It's just telling you the voltage of the solar panel. The next one is actually telling you how many amps from the solar panel is going into your battery, which is quite handy. Then we have the battery capacity itself. So that's going to be percentage. So I've got a good battery at the moment, so it's showing 100%. So you can keep an eye on where your battery is running at. The next one actually tells you the battery in a voltage reading. So 13.5, 13.3, which I've got at the moment, which is all good. Okay, the next one is the amount of amps that our load is using. So I'm using this little tiny voltmeter at the moment. It's only drawing 0.12 of an amp. If it was a bigger appliance, it would do that. Now, the load source was really designed for street lighting or lighting up very low voltage components. The great thing about this controller is you can actually preset it so that while you're away on your day trip, when you come home, your camping lights can be on. It's a great idea. The next one shows the amount of amp hours in time for a 12-hour or a daylight period that the solar panels put into the battery. And the same goes for the amount of amps that you've used on the load, whether you're lighting or whatever, in a daily total. And of course, we've got the temperature. So our little temperature probe that I had before, that tells you the actual ambient temperature. So if you think it's hot, go check your controller and it'll tell you exactly what the temperature is. The next is the load screen. So this goes to show what mode is going out of the load. And as I said, you can turn it on and off manually like I have here. So I just need to press that menu and I can turn my load on and off. So I've got lights on and I don't want to program it. I can just go and turn it on like a light switch. Otherwise, you can turn it on with a delay of when the sun's going down, it will automatically come on with about 30 minutes of the sundown. Then you can actually go plus amount of hours, maybe 2-3 hours plus sundown. You can choose and program it in. It's awesome. And finally, we've got the error code screen. So at the moment it's in EO, which means it's all good. If you have a code, it'll actually come up there and you can look in your manual and it'll tell you what the fault codes are. And back to the main screen. So that's the basic layout of all the different screens and menus on the controller. All right, so now I'm going to show you, you've seen all your screens. Now I'm going to show you probably the main important features to be able to change your battery type to suit your battery bank. And it's a bit of a ripper because we could do 5 different style of batteries. It's hard to see on the screen, but I'll get Jake to put a picture on it later on. You've got your gel, which is easy explained. You've got SLD, which is solid, which would be all your AGM style batteries. We've got FLD, which would be flooded. So those guys that are still using lead acid batteries, there's one for you. We've got USE, which is user defined. So all those rocket scientists out there that like to make their own programming up, there's one for you. And lithium, of course, which is Li. So I'm going to quickly go through how to change your battery type. And what we've got to do is scroll up through the menu. And we need to get to the battery icon and whatever percentage the battery is, and then we need to press the right-hand arrow, which is enter the menu. Okay, so what you'll see here is there's going to be a little gear come up, which means that you're in a setting and you can change a setting. Going down, go through all the different varieties of batteries. Now I'm going to leave it back at solid. So my battery's an AGM at the moment. And then you can do 2 things here. You could press and hold enter to confirm. But what I might do is show you how to change for those guys that are going to be running a 24 volt system. So once again, another feature, it can run 24 volts. It can do an auto. It can choose between 12 and 24 or just 12. So I'm going to press that. And if you can see up here, we've got 12 or 24 volts. So that's going to be auto. So if you've got a different size battery bank, it will automatically detect whether you're running a 12 volt or a 24 volt battery bank. So to change through the 12, 24 volt, we can go just 12 volt. We can go just 24 volt. Or once again, we can go to automatic. I'm just going to confirm that by pressing and holding enter. So now I'm out of the menu. There's no more gear down there. It means the settings all been done. Just one thing you do have to do if you're changing the battery voltage is every single thing has to get unplugged. Okay, so now when I plug it back in, once again, battery first, solar second, and load third. We're now going to be on our different setting that we made. All right. Now, finally, the last menu, which is the load. So I'll quickly go through how to change that. Now, remember, it originally is designed for using low amperage items like LED lighting, and you can program when they come on and come off. You can run heavy appliances off it, but you've got to think that if you've got solar panels putting out 5 amps and your fridge is drawing 5 amps, then you're sort of not going to be putting any current into your battery. So hence bigger items, I tend to run off batteries rather than out of a load circuit, but that's totally up to you. So I'll show you how to do it. Okay, here we go. Once again, going through the menu. So what we're looking at is just the simple light bulb up in the top right hand corner. So that's our load. So to change that, so at the moment I have that on 15. So 15 to me is a great one because what it'll actually do is using the right hand arrow, you can actually turn the load on and off manually. So if you've got things like camp lights and you don't want to set up on a timer, you can just press on and off. So straight away, press that button and whatever appliance you've got running on your 12 volts is going to start running. So to change that, we get it flashing when we've got the gear. To run through the menu, it's all in the menu itself. 16 is a test feature, so just ignore that one. We've got 17. So 17 means that the load is always going to be on, and this is actually in your manual, so you can have a quick look at it. So 17 means whatever you're powering is going to be on 24/7. Then we go to the 0. Now, I like the 0 myself because that does use the solar panel as a dimmer. So probably 20, 30 minutes after sundown, that's when the light circuit's going to come on automatically, which is great. Then the next one between 1 and 14 is the hours past when it's actually fallen dark. So you can imagine it's dark. If you want it to come on 2 hours after dark, this is how you're programming it. So whatever time you want, you can program that in. So once again, I'm going to go back onto the manual mode. That is my favorite. I'm going to press and hold. It's all set. So we've got it set, so I can just come along and turn my 12 volt appliance on and away it'll go. All right. Finally, another feature we have is the ability to use Bluetooth for the controller. So there's 2 options. We have the simple BT1 controller, which simply just works Bluetooth off your phone, which is great. The other one, as mentioned before, is the remote controller. So this will actually mirror off what's going on the other unit if you want to put this in your caravan or somewhere where it's a bit easier to get to. But once again, this does have the Bluetooth to be able to use the phone, and the app is probably the easiest to use to do every single thing that I've shown you here today. So what we've got to do, go to your app or the Google shop, whatever you're going to use, and once again, it's time to bring in a teenager and do this for you. So the app we're after is called the Solar app. Okay, so here we go with the Solar app. We're going to do install. Okay, so we're going to open the app. Okay, so here's the main feature of the app itself. So all you're going to do is press the add device, and this particular one will have the code written on it, so I'm going to click on that one there. So basically, as you can see by the screen here, We've got all the data that's recorded off the controller, so it tells you our battery percentage, our temperature, everything it's doing. Now we can go into you can actually record everything that the charger does. You can go into settings, you can enable and disable things as you feel pleased. So once again, this is a great way to use your phone to monitor what the solar controller is doing. So once again, thank you so very much for grabbing one of these, and we'll do a video a little bit later on, a little bit more about what this controller actually does for you, but for now, thank you very much.